Hello, welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers. I am your host, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corbin Eller.
And we are a Statistics in Sports podcast doing a very, very stupid fucking topic today.
It's incredibly stupid.
But we thought it'd be fun, and we were kind of curious. So today we're talking about NFL teams' success with versus without cheerleaders.
It's something.
The NFL, I think, is the only sport. Well, only sport that calls them cheerleaders, because basketball has dancers. I think some hockey teams have dancers too.
I know the Devils do.
I know that the Devils do. Baseball doesn't have. Baseball has mascots.
Every team
has
has
a mascot. Yeah. So football is the singular entity that has pom-pom waving cheerleaders.
Yeah, you're not going to see cheerleaders at a wrestling meet. Match.
Yeah, you're not going to see cheerleaders on the down the foul lines of at Yankee Stadium either.
Although that would be fucking hilarious if they were just standing like between the dugout and like where the ball boy sits in right field, and they were just there.
Well, I've often felt like the scariest position in baseball has to be the bullpen catcher at like the Trop, where you like, because it's still one of the ballparks that has the outside
field,
the foul.
yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. On the field. Bullpen, and if you're the bullpen catcher, you are facing away from the action, so you have approximately 2 seconds for someone to say "watch out" before you get decked. And I don't know, maybe I'm just too paranoid. That would scare the fuck out of me.
But wouldn't it be fun if those people getting hurt were half naked and waving pom poms,
scantily clad in very cold weather?
That is the politically correct term.
Yeah. So cheerleader. All right. Let me ask you this. Do you think that cheerleaders affect a team's success in any way?
Do I personally think that?
Yes.
No.
Do you think that cheerleaders enhance the fan experience in a meaningful way?
If you're older than like 15, no.
Do you think cheerleaders affect teams' marketability in any meaningful way?
If you are an NFL team outside of Dallas, Texas, no.
So why do you think so many teams have cheerleaders?
Because they don't have to pay them essentially anything, and they can. And if it brings, 100 more people to a game every week, that's enough for them to essentially pay off these salaries for these cheerleaders. I'm curious because I'm wondering if the travel expenses exceed the wages of these women. Because don't forget, they go with the team, don't they? Some do. I don't think they bring everyone. I think it's like a smaller section that come with them.
I would say marketability is where I would disagree. I'd say marketability is probably the main reason they have them.
I'd agree that it's the main reason.
Yeah, because I doubt the players care. And
no.
I bet that there's plenty of female, young, girls, not adult women, but young girls who look at it like, I want to do that, mommy. Because I bet there's plenty of young girls that do dance classes and gymnastics classes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's there for them, but we thought it'd be fun to see the sheer happenstance surrounding teams during the course of their franchise's existence that have cheerleaders versus don't. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so what I did was I went to our favorite Wikipedia.
I love Wikipedia.
It's a great resource for great people. And I went to just go see what the time period. What's great is that there's an actual dedicated page that just shows what spans of years each NFL team had cheerleaders for.
We are very lucky that page exists, because I feel like this would have been essentially impossible if it didn't.
We're also very lucky that you have me, because there is no good export function, so I had to copy that shit down by hand.
We should probably dedicate an episode to your bosses for either not knowing, not caring, or just general indifference for allowing you to do this at work.
Hey man, my work gets done on time. You know what my secret is? I never take a lunch break.
No.
I don't like breaking up my day like that. I hate leaving the office, having a nice time for an hour, and then thinking to myself,
fuck. I gotta go
All
back
right,
to
got to
work.
go back there. So
Yeah, I can get behind that.
So since I never take a lunch break, it's not like I'm any less. That doesn't matter. All right. So what I did was I wrote down the years that each team had cheerleaders, the years each team did not have cheerleaders, their record as a team with cheerleaders, and their record as a team without cheerleaders. So unfortunately, I did this in a way that's not exactly easy to sort because this doesn't feel like it's an easy to sort kind of thing. Actually, now that I think about it, there was probably a better way of doing this, but that's okay. It's kind of funny because small sample size comes into effect. Here's one of the things I noticed.
Okay.
More recent franchises have had cheerleaders their entire existence. So, like the Jaguars, the Panthers, the Texans, they've all had cheerleaders since they started, and I think that comes into the marketability point.
That's exactly what I was going to say. New teams need something to bring people in.
Right,
Why
and
not?
you can post like Instagram videos of like the dance routines,
Right.
and there's more people for fans to have meet and greets with. So I think that's plus like it's modern. Like they know that cheerleaders are a part of branding an NFL team, so they're going to do it. Whereas you have teams like the Falcons, who started in 1966 but didn't have cheerleaders until 1969. Same thing with the Ravens, who aren't even, I guess, that old. They're actually not old at all, but I think this might be born out of.
You consider
I was gonna say,
still being the Browns.
Yeah, this might be born out of just
yeah.
the confusion that was surrounding that situation because they were founded as a new franchise in '96, but didn't get their cheerleaders until '98. And then there's like the Bengals who were founded in 1968 and didn't get their cheerleaders until 1976. So there's a lot of that, a lot of like early year stuff where the first few seasons of a team's inception they didn't have it yet, and then they did. And I'm trying to think of why you would want to add cheerleaders when you didn't have them, and I'm wondering if there was just a specific football aesthetic that the teams were going for, or a logistical thing. Like, I don't know.
Maybe just there was enough. I don't think there ever has been, an outcry of demand for cheerleaders for a team that hasn't had them. Maybe teams fall in a rut, with, win percentage, all that kind of stuff. They're just in a general rut, and they're just trying every little thing they can to get out of it, improve that marketability, improve that image. Who knows?
Well, it's funny you say that, because that actually made me think of the next thing I was going to say, which is the Jets are kind of a weird team because they didn't get their cheerleaders until 2006, right? Yeah. And it's funny because I remember them always having cheerleaders because I was 12 in 2006. I don't remember that being like a thing. Like I just kind of remember the Jets flight crew always existing, and they didn't for the first 46 years of the teams being like that. Just after 46 years, you'd think you just say, "This isn't part of who we are." You know what I mean? Like it's I didn't think to dig up the story as to why because I had other shit to do, but. I mean, I asked you those three questions earlier of like, why would a team have cheerleaders? What if you didn't have one for that long? Why would you?
Is adding cheerleaders that big of a difference to your team to really, say, hey, we shouldn't add them because we've never had them before? That's not part of our identity. Like, do cheerleaders make up that big a part of a team's identity to make that claim?
I think that like the Texans or the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders do.
I feel like Dallas is in their own bracket.
Yeah,
here.
we should probably filter them out of our conversation for the most part. I think it goes in line with a certain, like I said, football aesthetic. When you think of football, you think of the literal ball, you think of shoulder pads and helmets, and you think of girls wearing something that shows their belly button while waving pom-poms with whatever your team's colors are. Usually tailored somewhat to fit like the symbol of your team in some way. Like the Jets will wear more kind of military-looking outfits for their cheerleaders because they are the Jets, so it's like pilot inspired, I should say. And
right.
You have teams that have more like horse theme, will have more of like a rancher style to their team's cheerleading outfits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering with the Jets in particular if they were just trying to get more fan engagement which I would assume would be the goal of all of the teams doing it, because football hasn't always been as popular as it is now, and maybe that was at some point a way of spreading popularity. But I'm not really sure. I can't picture it nowadays, but I can't speak to 1965. You know what I mean?
Believe it or not, neither of us were alive in 1965.
Oh, I wouldn't want to be.
And
I need
don't
the
think,
internet.
It's not like we can talk to our, parents about it. My dad was 3.
My dad was
4.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Whereas you have the Raiders, who were founded in 61 and with cheerleaders right then and there. So I guess it just goes to show this shit's... So actually, hold on. Here's an interesting one. So some of the older teams... Actually, all the older teams didn't have them, right?
Right.
So like the Eagles were founded in 1933 and didn't get their cheerleaders until 1948.
Mm-hmm.
That's 15 years. They had them for 12 years-ish. I couldn't find a clear year as to when they ended, so I think I just signed them 1977. And then they didn't have them for like 10 years until 86, and then they've had them forever. Because that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's another. We think we should have them, or we think we should. Like, they don't cost a lot of money, and they don't.
They cost a disgustingly little amount of money.
They really should be paid so much more than they are.
I'm actually going to look up those costs.
It's minimum wage.
It's actually less.
No, it's minimum, because at least that's what Michaela said. Oh, well, the thing is, they treat them like minor league baseball players, where they don't pay you for your practices. They only pay you for games. But you have to practice to play, or to perform, I should say, because otherwise you don't know the routines. But they only pay you for games, so it's pretty shitty, much as the MLB does with minor league baseball players. But anyway, so I don't really understand why there'd be so much oscillation with some of these teams between having them and not having them. I don't know when cheerleaders came into the ether. What do you think happened first? NFL cheerleaders or college football cheerleaders?
College football.
Do you think it was just an adaptation from college?
Probably. I mean, colleges have had them literally forever, just because, that's a part of collegiate sports and all that jazz. I feel like they're popular enough in college because college kids and cheerleaders kind of go well together. And
fuck.
Yes, to put it so eloquently. Yeah, I could see it just being a straight up, hey, we're, trying to get a younger crowd. Let's bring in some hot babes in, have them dance around. Let's bring strippers out onto the field, essentially, and strip for money.
Welcome to the 80s. We've got Lawrence Taylor with some foreign substance under his nose, slinging 2 babes over his shoulder, and sacking everybody. Anyway, look at the Saints page on the Saints on the spreadsheet. And
I saw that it came and went 3 times.
Horror. Yeah, they had them from 1967, and they had them for 67 and 68. Didn't have them from 69 and 70. Had them for 71. Didn't have them from 72 to 74. Had them for 75 to 78. Didn't have them from 79 to 86, and then have had them from 1987 to today.
Make up your fucking mind.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, why would you switch?
Flip, flop, flip, flop. Do you know the kind of toll 3 vasectomies has on a man?
Is that from Scrubs?
It's from not Seinfeld, The Office.
Oh, okay.
The dinner party episode.
I don't really. I don't like The Office. I hate saying it because everyone gives me shit. I don't like The Office. It's a bad show.
Do you know how many viewers we just lost?
It's such a fucking bad show. It's boring. All of you who like it are... Whoa. Chris Sale has 17 strikeouts on 108 pitches through 7 innings.
What?
Wow. How is this the first update I've gotten on this?
What? 17?
17.
Through how many innings?
7. 108 pitches. Do you think...
17 of 21 outs have been strikeouts?
Do you think that they let him keep pitching?
No, because it's Chris Sale, and I would be scared shitless of that man throwing his elbow out.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave the game up on...
If it's as long as it's not a perfect game, I would say pull him.
It's not because Colorado
17?
Colorado has 2 runs in that time. As Boston leads 3-2. We're recording this May 14th. You know we don't record these the day of. Go fuck yourself. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that.
17?
37. Trying to suck any dicks on the way to the parking lot. Everyone should watch Clerks.
37?
I go down on a guy. Yeah, everyone should watch Clerks. If you're from New Jersey and you haven't watched Clerks, I don't know what kind of concocted childhood you have. Like,
God, you need Jay and Silent Bob in your life.
All of their movies,
yeah,
especially when they strike back. So anyway,
so I have the details for Cheerleaders up in front of me. If you want to, gather your thoughts while I go through
ahead.
This. So it's a lot of approximations because NFL teams don't publish this information openly about their workers because why would they? They're a privately owned organization. So from personal testimony, it ranges from 30 to 40 hours per week, 8 hours practicing, 8 hours in game time, and then private and private rehearsal with the team, and then public outreach that they have to do with the team.
Right.
And then pay for the full NFL season. I want you to guess how much they get paid for a full NFL season. 17 weeks, 30 to 40 hours a week, their total take-home pay. Not even take-home, total pay.
$22,000.
You would be very wrong.
Tell me.
$1,250 to $3,000.
Oh, my God.
Which
Wow.
averages out to roughly $2.30 of minimum wage.
That's
below,
incredible.
$2.30, far below minimum wage.
Wow. Yeah, that's why. Like, so I have a friend.
This is like fucking pocket change to NFL owners.
I have a friend who was for one season a dancer for the Miami Heat, and she did it when she was a freshman in college. And she said basically all of those girls who do it are college students because it doesn't pay enough for you to do it as a job. And if you like dancing and are good at it and you want to like do it in a relatively competitive way, that's what you do, which doesn't make it right that they're earning so little. It's still very much so an abuse of circumstance. But I guess you can take some comfort in knowing that most, if I had to guess, of these women are not relying on this for their life. Like, it's not like this is going to be their end-all be-all of their career, and they're like barely getting by on this. They're probably doing this as a part-time gig. It's still fucked up, but if you want to look on the bright side, I'd still take this over minor league baseball players being treated the way they are, although both are very easily reconcilable issues for owners that should very much be taken care of in a 21st century society.
I feel like that's a big reason why a lot of teams don't have them. It's just it's too much. Yeah, like it's just
actually
too
most
much
teams do.
Really?
I think only 7 teams don't.
If I feel like I wouldn't do it in this day and age, just because it's not worth the liability of future issues and
Robert Kraft fucking them.
Man, I mean, if I owned an NFL team, I love my girlfriend, but man, I feel like I'd be a scumbag owner.
You hired your girlfriend.
Yeah, that's true. She was a cheerleader. I could do that. I feel like that would buy me quite a bit of brownie points.
Anyway, let's leave this topic to the side where it belongs. Let's just go through team by team because this won't take long. And
this actually took a significant amount of time to actually get to the data in this podcast.
But that's okay. That's okay because this is a really lighthearted topic, and we're going to keep this as lighthearted as we can. So, and also, I kept trying to think of a good way to describe the caveats I want to give for it and the context, and I think the easiest way is to just read it as it is.
Fair enough.
So the Arizona Cardinals, we'll just do records with and without. They had their cheerleaders for most of their tenure. They had now I'm just doing everything at this point. They were founded in 1920. They went all the way up until 1963, 43 years of existence without having cheerleaders. In that time, they had a .332 win percent. And since then, they've had cheerleaders 1964 on, and since then, they've had a .436 win percent. So The story here is that the Cardinals suck.
Yeah, not a very old franchise, not a very historic franchise.
Brandon Workman has relieved Chris Sale.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense with 108 pitches thrown. So, yeah, the Cardinals just suck. That's really all this is. I guess they sucked less with cheerleaders. So we'll give a point to the cheerleaders on that one.
Hey, go them.
Yeah, I'm going to highlight them in green, and we'll say that they're better with cheerleaders, and that's how we'll do this. All right, the Atlanta Falcons, they basically have had cheerleaders their entire existence. They've had cheerleaders since 1969. They were founded in 1966. So the record without cheerleaders being an exceedingly small sample size is a measly 155 win%, which is very bad.
Yikes.
And with cheerleaders, it's 458.
Much better.
So we're going to give that one to the cheerleaders.
Atlanta, you were not good in those 3 years.
Some would say no. The Baltimore Ravens, they have had their cheerleaders since 1998. They still do. They did not have their cheerleaders for 96 and 97. Without cheerleaders, a 328 win%, and with cheerleaders, a 565 win%, and also 2 Super Bowls. So,
yeah, Ravens have been pretty good since they moved to Baltimore from Cleveland.
They've been pretty good since they've had women
themselves.
scantily clad dancing around in cold weather, not paying them enough.
I don't know how else you could put it. Excellent work, Josh.
Yeah. The Buffalo Bills is an interesting one.
You would think,
because they
of all teams, they shouldn't have them because it's fucking cold in Buffalo.
And yet they had them for 53 years and then got... So they're the opposite of the Jets, who didn't have them for 46 years and then got them. And now the Bills have had them for 53 years and got rid of them. And which is funny because my team's played in the Bills division my entire life, and I've never thought of them as having cheerleaders.
Same.
Zero recollection of the Bills ever having cheerleaders, and apparently they did.
Their cheerleaders are outside of the stadium getting drunk and jumping through tables. Those are the Buffalo cheerleaders.
As a true Buffalonian would. So without cheerleaders, which has been the most recent 6 years, they're at a 490 win%, and with cheerleaders, it's a 460 win%. And those aren't impressive numbers.
Because you just imagine on the Buffalo sideline, instead of cheerleaders doing their, little like pom-pom waving, it's 5 guys making or 6 guys making a pyramid, and the guy on top jumping off through a folding table.
I'm picturing like 6 really fat dudes.
Oh, of course they're fat.
Shirts off, hairy as fuck. They tried to paint the word Bills on their chest, but they spelled the name wrong.
All of these are already givens for Buffalo fans.
Like it's like a B, and then the guy tried to make an I, and it doesn't look different from an L, and then one guy tried to make an L, but it looks like a T, and it none of it's going well.
That's the Buffalo we know and love.
Yeah, they're like exceedingly drunk. They've smashed 3 tables today.
Is Buffalo everyone's drunk uncle?
It's that really grabby one.
Oh, of course.
Let me ask you, as a non-Buffalo Bills fan, would you rather have the Buffalo Bills have cheerleaders, or the Buffalo Bills be 0.030% more successful?
It's a flip of a coin at that point. I think for the sake of those women having to work very scantily clad in Buffalo winters, just don't have them.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the cheerleaders because I don't want Buffalo to be successful. But that's because I'm a fan of an opposing team. But this one is going to have to go to the without cheerleaders, as they have been more successful without cheerleaders in their time. All right, the Carolina Panthers have never had cheerleaders. Never not had cheerleaders. They're 496 win%, which is as close to 500 without actually being as you can possibly get, being so marginally off. Because Carolina is literally the most up and down team. They've never had back-to-back winning, I think, or losing seasons.
That is correct.
They're doing it. They're trying.
Oh boy.
So the Bears, I knew didn't have cheerleaders today. I kind of assumed they never did. And the fact that they did for only 9 years is hysterical. So the Bears were founded in 1920. They didn't have cheerleaders for 56 years. And then had them from 76 to 85, and then said, we won the Super Bowl. We don't need these bitches. and then fired him. And and so the Bears, with their cheerleaders, rocked a 550 win percent, and the Bears without their cheerleaders rocked a 566 win percent.
And considering how dominant they were in the early 80s and how short of a time period they had cheerleaders, you would think that win percentage would be significantly higher.
And so I think what comes into play here is that the fact that the Bears, from their founding to like the late 1950s, were just so stupid fucking good, is probably bolstering that. Because the Bears of recent are not awful, but they're probably around that 490 to 505 win percent, more
Right.
so than they are around the 600 that's probably keeping them afloat over here. So we'll give that one to the without cheerleaders team. So the Bengals have only not had cheerleaders for 7 years, from their inception in 1968 to 1975. With cheerleaders, they have a 449 win percent. Without cheerleaders, a 496 win percent. So this is going to go team not cheerleader.
I have to imagine that just like the Cincinnati Bengals, their cheerleaders are the dirtiest of the NFL. They're a bunch of skanks.
They probably all have like weird spray tan lines because they didn't realize you get naked in those. And there's
they're all named Crystal or
there's like just enough body hair and not enough teeth that you're like, oh, I don't want to see this.
They're all
Welcome to Cincinnati.
their day jobs are Tuesday afternoon strippers.
What do you? They're all office assistants. They all have like neon nails. Yeah.
Another
Their
perfect
dads all
office
left
reference. You want to go to a strip club on a Tuesday afternoon?
The Browns have never had cheerleaders, so which is interesting, honestly, given all of the other teams that are as old as the Browns. Like, you would think at some point, like the Bears' weird 9 years there, and some of the other teams that we've mentioned already, having had like a weird little patch where like, let's hop on the cheerleader train. The Browns are just like, nah, we got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, you think about it, they essentially stoned their own team during, a losing streak. What do you think they do to the scantily clad cheerleaders standing on the edge of the field that
Clap
aren't big
politely,
enough,
like a good Clevelandite would.
You know what? You're right. I forgot how classy Cleveland fans
Sober
can be.
and not on heroin.
All wearing three-piece suits and,
Their top hats and monocles.
the women not showing their ankles.
Perfectly coiffed hair. And
It's essentially a scene straight out of The Crucible,
yeah, except without all the fucking.
Wow.
Yeah. The Dallas Cowboys have only not had cheerleaders for their first 2 years. So this is something I mentioned. Like, this is one of those teams founded in 1960s that didn't have them for a couple of seasons and then got them. So their win percent without cheerleaders is 192, and their win percent with cheerleaders is 585.
I don't even think we could file this. Just the sample size is so weighted heavily in favor.
Well, I filed the other one, so we're filing this one too. This is going to the Go Cheerleader side, helping out them Dallas Cowboys. We then have the Denver Broncos, who are one of those teams that had and then didn't have and then had again. So they were founded in 1960 and they didn't have cheerleaders for 10 years. Then they had them for 10 years, so they had them from 71 to 80. And then they didn't have them from 81 to 92, was another 10 years. And then they got them again in 93 and have had them ever since.
I like that they were back for John Elway to come to town.
John Elway probably said, the only way I'm coming to Denver is if I'm coming in Denver. You dig?
He's like a freshman, sophomore in college. He's like, I'm going to go play for Denver one day. Get yourself some fucking cheerleaders, guys.
Guys, I need cold beer, I need good weed, and I need some bitches. And they're
Where
like,
are these
we
white
got
women
at? So the record without cheerleaders is 464. The record with cheerleaders is 577, and that is a huge difference with enough sample size to make you wonder if this was actually timed out in some kind of way. Like, hey, we're doing really well, let's get more cheerleaders to increase fan involvement, to increase turnout, or to whatever, because there's not too much else to do in Denver at this time. It wasn't quite the city it is now. It almost feels intentional. Do you think it would be?
Maybe?
Because I'm wondering, like, Elway got drafted in
83.
83. Yeah, I guess they didn't have him. They got rid of him like 2 years before he showed up. Because I was going to say maybe
83.
maybe they tried 83's right because it was in the same year as Marino.
Yeah.
And Kelly, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe they try to usher in a new era. The Jets are changing the uniforms this year because now they have Darnold and they want to try to change the image of the organization, but who's to say?
So I went to Google the 1983 NFL draft just because I wanted to double check. I typed in 1983. The first result was 1983 NFL draft.
They know you.
Take a guess what the second result is. I've never searched this or searched a term like it before.
1983 Denver Broncos cheerleaders.
1983 Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yo, I was looking for a potato salad recipe the other day, and I go on my phone on the Google, and I type in potato, and the first autofill is potatoes with curly hair. And I was like, who is searching for potatoes with curly hair?
Yeah, that's weird.
I was like, how is this even a search option? How is this a
That's like Google listening to you, and this is the one time they got it wrong.
Yeah, man. It doesn't matter.
Some intern at Google is like, this guy's saying he wants potatoes with curly hair.
Do we give it to him? A potato?
Do we give it to him? Give it to him.
Why would you want to fuck a potato?
All right, Jerry.
The Detroit Lions were founded in 1930. They did not have cheerleaders for their first 32 years on this planet. They got them in 1963, had them for 10 years until 1974, and then scrapped them for 40 years before picking them up again in 2015, or 2016 being the first season, which is just a bizarre back and forth.
Yeah.
I'd have to assume this comes down to almost a change in... No, actually, you know what? 2015 to 2016, that could make sense for changing of the face of the or image of the organization for the Lions, because you've had Matt Stafford for 8 seasons. Like Calvin Johnson just left. Fans are probably feeling pretty sad. And what would make any Detroit resident feel better about losing their greatest player of all time, second greatest player of all time? I'm going to give Barry Sanders that one. Other than hot bitches.
It works. I mean, they changed their uniforms 2 years after
they did
that.
Change the uniforms, yeah.
The ownership didn't change, but the management did around that time. I could see it happening. Just wanting a fresh start.
Yeah, well, their record without cheerleaders is 452. Their record with cheerleaders is 502. A winning record. So that's going to go Team Pro Cheerleaders, and it's kind of neat.
Very neat.
Relatively neat. The Green Bay Packers.
Very relatively.
I
just want to say it hurts that their years without cheerleaders was all of Barry Sanders' career, and it still wasn't enough to buoy that in any way. Lions suck. I hate them.
Yeah.
Barry Sanders.
Yeah. They feel like an easy team to root for because they've always been the lovable loser.
Yeah.
And they've just never pulled it together. It's shocking.
Like, they were my grandfather's team, and
that's why he died. They killed him. Those Detroit bastards.
Moving on.
The Green Bay Packers were founded in 1921, did not have cheerleaders for the first 35 years of their existence, got them in 1957, have had them ever since through their 5 Super Bowls?
4.
Yeah, the first 2, one with Favre, one with Rodgers. All right. Their record without cheerleaders is 584. Jesus. Oh, that makes sense. And the record with cheerleaders is 554. Wow, I can't fucking talk.
You should try with and without your glasses to see if that makes a difference.
Unfortunately, it's not going to. I'm a blind man. With and
They've
without
actually only had 2.
What?
2 NFL championships. One with Favre, one with Rodgers. That was it.
No, they won the first 2 Super Bowls as well.
NFL championships, it's only 2011 and 1997, it says.
What are you looking at?
Wikipedia.
Well, no, they won Super Bowl 1 and Super Bowl 2. They beat the Oakland Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs.
I don't. They have it set up. So you are correct. AFL, NFL Super Bowl championships to Super Bowl championships to.
Yeah, it's because after Super Bowl III, when the Jets beat the Colts, then there was the merger, and then they're gonna. So the Super Bowl IV is considered the first modern Super Bowl. Yeah. And with the first three being still Super Bowl championships that are counted, but they're considered pre-merger and therefore different. So, I mean, go figure.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong on that one.
But the Packers are a historically very good franchise outside of, like, the 80s, right? So this shouldn't be surprising that they are good with and without cheerleaders. Yeah. The Texans have never not had cheerleaders, so their 445 win percent is all with cheerleaders, and they will be counted out. The Colts have never not had cheerleaders. Since 1954, they've had cheerleaders their entire existence.
I knew that they had cheerleaders. I never knew that it's been a historical thing.
Yeah, go fucking figure. I mean, they have to be one of the earlier teams to have them. They probably have had their cheerleaders longer than any other team has because, like, the Eagles had them in 1948, but, like, they got rid of them for a while. So, like, this might be I didn't check, and I have this whole spreadsheet in front of me. I'm not going to check, but this could be the longest tenure of cheerleaders in the NFL, the Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders.
I'm looking.
8 years before Dallas.
Yeah, I don't see anything so far. Early 60s, early 70s. Yeah, it looks like the Colts are it. Packers were just before that, or just after that, excuse me.
Yeah, so they've never not had them, and their 529 win percent is all with their cheerleaders. The Jacksonville Jaguars have never not had cheerleaders since 1995, their inception, so their 443 win percent is all with cheerleaders. The Kansas City Chiefs had cheerleaders just in 1964, and then got rid of them. It was a trial run. And then in 1971 through today, they have had them. Their record without cheerleaders, which would be 1960 to 1963, and 1965 through 1970, is 646. There's also a Super Bowl win in there. And then their record with cheerleaders is 506. I honestly didn't realize the Chiefs were this historically good. I knew they were good in the early 60s when they won the Super Bowl. And I know they've been good for a while. I didn't realize that they were historically this good.
It's just, I think they're one of those teams that's never been historically really, really bad.
That's a good point.
More than, a handful of seasons at a time.
Okay. The Chargers. They also had sketchy dates for theirs, so I didn't find a great one for the Chargettes, which is what their first one was called.
Oh, God.
So I just kind of picked some random start and end dates. So they had them from the 60s to the 70s, and from 1990 forward. So their years without cheerleaders are put as being 79 to 89. The record with cheerleaders is 503. The record without cheerleaders is 500. So they are just better with them than without them. So yeah, good for them. That's a +1 for the with cheerleader team. The Rams were founded in 1937 and did not have cheerleaders for their first 36 years. Yeah, I'm going to leave in that really bad hesitation. And then from 1974 on, they have had them. Their record without cheerleaders, they have a 527 win percent without cheerleaders and a 487 win percent with cheerleaders. So unfortunately, they were a better team. Without them, they should fire their cheerleaders. Sorry to say. The Dolphins have never not had cheerleaders since 1966.
That I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the facts in front of us. I have to believe it, but I could easily see them having cheerleaders forever because it's Miami.
A team I did not realize has had cheerleaders for their entire existence as well, the Minnesota Vikings.
Not a team you would expect to have cheerleaders.
Nope. Never crossed my mind.
Maybe it's because in these like cold, really just always wintry areas, people just aren't used to seeing women in anything less than a parka, and got to get it somewhere.
Before Game of Thrones, kids, you had to go find the women. Yeah, I hate hearing my dad try to sell someone on Game of Thrones Because he always just says, yeah, there's a lot of really cool killing and a whole lot of fucking. And I'm just like, that's not a way you should sell this show. It's got a deep lore and like a history and like 7,000 plot lines. You shouldn't sell it based on some guy getting his head chopped off and some lady's titties.
I mean, when did this show start? Like 10 years ago?
Yeah, I want to say like 08, 09, thereabouts.
Oh, jeez. It had to have been after that. Let's just say like it started like
2010.
Yeah, something like that. I was in like 7th grade at the time.
Colorado just took the lead, by the way. So there's a chance that Chris Hill threw 17 strikeouts and won't get the win. Actually, no, he definitely won't get the win.
Yeah, like no decision.
It's a no decision. A 17 strikeout, no decision. What a slap to the face.
Red Sox aren't good this year.
Fuck them. Anyway, you were saying?
7th grade me, if you just told me there was a lot of bleeding and a lot of fucking, that would be enough to get me into that show.
A lot of bleeding and a lot of fucking, a.k.a. when Corbin screws his girlfriend on her period.
Ayo, if you're listening to this, which I know you're not, I love you. But it's okay because you don't listen to this.
First episode date for Game of Thrones was April 17th, 2011.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess, I don't know why I thought they skipped a year in there for between seasons. I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah, you said that earlier too. I've never even thought about it because I didn't watch it from the beginning. I picked up, 2 or 3 seasons in.
I picked it up at season 4. I caught myself up right before the season 4 debut. I don't know why, but I don't know why I thought recently there was a season skip in there.
No idea.
Yeah, maybe I'm just conflating it with Rick and Morty taking forever.
That's where I was going to go because
Yeah.
it's been like 3 years.
They don't care about us.
They don't.
Anyway, the New England Patriots.
Hey, you got them, Josh. You showed them.
Might as well sell that to you now, Kraft. They were founded in 1960. They didn't have cheerleaders until 1977. Their record without cheerleaders is .439, and the record with cheerleaders, for some reason, their modern success has bolstered them to a .604 win percent, including 2 Super Bowl berths without Tom Brady, and then all the Tom Brady stuff.
We don't need to go into that.
Yeah, so they are better with their cheerleaders. We'll give them a point for that. The New Orleans Saints is, as I mentioned, an oscillation of a team. I went through all of it already. The record with their cheerleaders is .514. The record without their cheerleaders is .335. That's back when they were called the Aints, because wow, did they suck. The Giants.
Sorry, Papa Manning.
Have never had a Super Bowl. Have never had cheerleaders. I think they're the first team on this list that's never had them. I think they're one of the the Browns. Browns didn't have them at all.
I think there was a third team too.
There might have been. I'm making all of this up on the fly. Anyway, so yeah, Giants never had them. The Jets we talked about, they only have had them for the last 13 years, founded in 2006. Their win percent without their cheerleaders is .451. Their win percent with their cheerleaders is .447, so they were better pre-cheerleader era. Did you find anything?
No, it was just the Cleveland Browns.
All right, the Oakland Raiders have had them, as we mentioned, forever, so their .524 win percent goes for the with cheerleaders. The Philadelphia Eagles, we brought up their lineage, their flip-flopping with the cheerleaders already before as well. Without cheerleaders, they have a .431 win percent, and with cheerleaders, a .509. So that is Team Pro cheerleaders. The Pittsburgh Steelers were founded in 1933 and did not have cheerleaders for the first 26 seasons. Had them from 1960 to 1969, and then said, nah, and then scrapped them in 1970 and have not had any cheerleaders since. The record with cheerleaders is .359. The record without cheerleaders is .556. I kind of get it. I kind of get, like, they probably were really good, and they're like, all right, you know what make this better? Women. And then they just got bad, by not the women's fault, but, like, they got bad. And then they said, we need to change the women. And then they changed the women into Terry Bradshaw.
Yikes. I'm just picturing Terry Bradshaw in like an actual cheerleading uniform from like the 70s, and it's an ugly sight back then.
Are you picturing like 1970s Terry Bradshaw? Or are you picturing today's Terry Bradshaw?
I'm picturing 1970s Terry Bradshaw with with today's Terry Bradshaw's hair.
I'm picturing today's Terry Bradshaw in like a bikini, and I think it's hysterical. Anyway, moving on from my fantasies.
Oh.
The San Francisco 49ers did not have cheerleaders for their first 33 years on this planet. In that time, they had a 507 win percent, and since then, 1979 to present day, they've had, with cheerleaders, a 562 win percent pro cheerleader city, San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean,
they're good. They're a good team. They've always been a good team.
Yeah.
Both these are over 500.
Yeah.
They're good at football. The Seahawks have also never not had cheerleaders. 1976. They're founded to today. I feel like I've never noticed that shit either.
I feel like I knew they had them, but I've never truly noticed them.
So this is the first team that has had cheerleaders their entire existence, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and have been truly awful the entire time. Now, like, the Jags are, like, below 500 at, like, 440, and, like, the Panthers are below 500 at 490.
For, a little while.
20 years.
Yeah, really, since the 90s.
The Tampa Bay Bucks have been around for 43 years. Their win percentage is 385. And that's so far down in the basement.
They've won a Super Bowl.
I know.
Like, they have good years. It's not like they've just been mediocre forever, and they were never 1-10 or 1-11 every year, or 1-15 every year. They had good seasons. They've been awful for so long.
At this point, they should probably just have the cheerleaders there to prevent fan suicide. They're probably all double trained as EMTs.
Jesus Christ.
Tampa doesn't deserve sports teams, and I will die on this hill. The city of Tampa does not deserve to have sports teams. All of them are poorly run except the Rays. Actually, well, the Lightning have been well run under Yzerman, but Yzerman could run anything well.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that man could walk into any sports team, and I'm convinced Yzerman could lead the Knicks to success, and that's saying some shit.
You remember the show, like, I don't remember the actual name, but it's like Trading Wives, like
Wife Swap?
Wife Swap,
Yeah.
Trading Spouses, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's another one, yeah.
Can they do that with, like, major league franchises? Like, can we give
GMs?
Can we give Yzerman to, like,
The Knicks. I think that Yzerman could. I'm dead serious right now. I think that Steve Yzerman, Stevie Y, could lead the Knicks to at least the playoff berth.
and just give, like, Phil Jackson, if he's still there, to the Lightning? And
No,
just see
now
what
it's
happens?
David Fizdale.
That's the coach,
Yeah.
not the GM.
Wasn't Phil Jackson the coach though?
He was at one point, and now I think he's just the GM.
Oh, I thought they had
I
a
don't
different
know.
guy as the GM.
He was there
they
as the
fired
GM.
him
He might
altogether.
have left by now.
I think they
don't
gave him
know.
both duties, and then they've relieved him of both duties.
Phil Jackson, I want to say, like, he might be in Houston. I don't know. I don't follow.
He might be in
basketball.
heaven. Is he alive?
No, he's very much alive.
I thought you were going to say
hope.
no. He's very much in hell. But yeah, Tampa Bay doesn't. No one goes to the games for any of their teams. The Rays, who like almost made the playoffs last year, only because the AL was a beast, and who are probably going to make the playoffs this year,
like, they are.
had to close the upper bowl of their stadium for good because not enough people are going to the games, and they still can't sell out that stadium.
Like, depressing.
It's also because that stadium is in a terrible location. But Tampa Bay doesn't deserve sports teams. I will die on this hill. They should all be relocated to Salt Lake City, Portland, or Vancouver. And I will die on this hill, much like Gary Sanchez is being a good catcher, which, fuck everybody, I told you he'd bounce back.
They should
He's
just open
back.
God, whatever. We should just open up like 6 retirement homes just outside the Trop, and just force anyone who lives there to go to every game.
Just built-in attendance.
Yeah.
They should put cots in the Trop. That's what they should do.
Essentially, turn the Trop into hospice care.
You know what they should team up with local hotels, like, hey, rent a night here and get free tickets to the game. That way, you have someone living, like, staying near the Trop. You know, like they're at the Holiday Inn down the road. And
my God.
Well, hon, I mean, it's hot today and the stadium's air conditioned.
Is it bad that I think that would actually fucking work?
No, of course it would work. Because also, like, the stadium is air conditioned. You have nothing fucking better to do. A free baseball game for a team that's good.
Yeah. Are they still over 600?
Probably.
Ugh.
I think they are, because I think they're still top 3 record in baseball. Anyway,
They
moving
were
on.
they were yesterday. They were at like 6:04 yesterday.
Well, they didn't play yesterday, so then they definitely still are.
All right, there we go.
And they're playing the Marlins today, so they definitely.
So they're even higher.
As we discussed, a team of
Marlins
retired
are good.
players could beat the Marlins. And the thing is, since that episode aired, the Marlins haven't won a single game.
Oh God,
And that episode aired a week ago.
you're a depressing black hole of a franchise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, we should go back to a previous topic that I think we may have discussed, or I just happened to listen to a podcast that discussed it. If they remake Major League in current day, it has to be Miami.
Although when did Major League come out?
The 80s.
I was going to say because
Late 80s, yeah.
I thought it was the 90s for some reason. 'Cause
it could be.
Cleveland wasn't bad, and Cleveland almost went. Well, they did go to a World Series in the 90s. I think they went in like 94. No, because I think that's the year Toronto won. Yes. All right. Anyway, the Tennessee Titans, they went 15 years without cheerleaders. They were founded in 1960. In 1975, they had them, and they've had them ever since. The record without cheerleaders is 442. The record with cheerleaders is 496. So they are pro cheerleader.
I just want to say Tampa Bay is up 4-0 at the top of the ninth with the bases loaded.
Shocking, truly. The Washington Redskins, our final team, they did not have cheerleaders from 1932 to 1962. They had them in 1963 and have had them since. The record without cheerleaders is 486, and the record with cheerleaders is 511. So they are also pro cheerleader, and that's been a trend. We've seen so many of these early founding father franchises not have cheerleaders until like the 50s and 60s, and I've got to imagine there's some piece of history there. Like, there's some catalyst that just turned it all over. You think it's the Cowboys?
Could be.
I know we said that the Colts came first, but the Cowboys having them in 62 and then, becoming America's team.
Cowboys were good in the 60s and 70s.
You think that there's a copycat league that they just kind of went for it?
Fits the narrative for everything else the NFL does.
I'm willing to buy this unfounded excuses.
Yeah, we have absolutely no data to back any of this up other than the years that they existed. So yeah, why not?
Yeah,
We're a smart bunch of fellas. We can figure this out.
I'll buy into my own ideas. I don't need to sell myself very hard. All right. So, do you think we have after hearing all this? Do you think we have more success with cheerleaders or without cheerleaders?
I think we have more success with cheerleaders.
I'm doing the tally right now. Yeah, we haven't. I'm not seeing too much coded in red here. And in theory, I could just write something in Excel that would do this, but I've already come this far, so I'm not going to. All right, we have a total of 13 teams with who are better with their cheerleaders. We're going to have several teams that are not going to be counted at all because they've never had cheerleaders, like the Browns and the Giants, or they've never not had cheerleaders, like the Colts and the Jaguars. So now we're just tallying up all of the worse with cheerleader teams. And 8. So we have 13 teams who were better with cheerleaders, 8 teams that were worse with cheerleaders, so every team in the NFL should have cheerleaders.
There you go.
And no one will ever be below 500 again.
Spoken. The gods have spoken.
I also did have this. The total number of championships for teams that have had and have not had cheerleaders is exceedingly lopsided. Championships for teams without cheerleaders, 12 times. And by basic math, 41 teams with cheerleaders have won the Super Bowl.
I like that. It was basic math, and I didn't think of it.
Yeah,
I was like, I wonder how many there's going to be.
53 Super Bowls. So yeah. I wasn't sure the logistics of it because the Bears got rid of their cheerleaders for the 86 season. But because the Super Bowl was played in 86, I assumed that carried over from the 85 season, so I gave the Bears a with. All right, good.
It does.
How funny is that, though? Like, all right, ladies, you won the Super Bowl. Go home and don't come back.
I imagine that happened immediately. Like, hey,
are we getting our Super
we
Bowl
won the
rings
Super Bowl.
today?
No, you're fired.
Are we getting our Super Bowl rings today, Mr. GHB, whatever the fuck your name was? No, you're all getting bus tickets.
I would love if they handed them all boxes that, like, the Super Bowl rings came in, and inside was just pink slips.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a damn shame.
Man.
So
women need to get paid more.
What do you make of all of these pieces of information we've discussed here today?
Man, this is useless for anything.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
Is it something I'm going to note when I watch the NFL this season? Probably. Will I do it more than once or twice? No.
I think the only time I'm going to notice this going forward or care that we did this going forward is if a team changes again.
True.
From having to not having.
And the reasoning why.
Yeah. Like, do you think if the Giants really start sucking, like, no end in sight, Manning leaves and Daniel Jones doesn't pan out, like, that they, for the first time in their franchise history, adopt cheerleaders to give the fans something?
Yeah. I could see it.
It's tough because the Maras are dicks. I'm not sure they care about the fans that much.
I could see when the elder Mara dies.
He did die.
Well, like the next one.
John?
Yeah.
The worst piece of shit. Hey, John Mara, if you're listening to this, you suck, but I'll still take your money if you want to sponsor us.
Yeah. Also, Kate Mara and Rudy Mara are kind of hot, so if they're single, hook
I'm
us up.
waiting for that sex tape, right, buddy?
Oh, that's the grossest fist bump that I've ever had.
Roll Tide, am I right?
Yeah. Around the bowl and down the hole. Roll Tide, roll.
That just sounds so sexual. What's that supposed to be in reference to?
Around the toilet bowl, down the hole. Roll Tide, roll.
Oh, okay. Is that something opposing fans say then?
No, it's something an Alabama fan told me.
What?
Yeah. He came up for a Penn State game a couple years ago, and he was telling us about like all the shit people would yell at like Auburn, Alabama games. At the Iron Bowl.
Did he show you some sweet nudes of his mom? This here's my cousin.
You need Jesus, my friend.
Well, the Alabamians have it, and they fuck each other, so I'm not sure I do.
Well, I mean, we all need Jesus, is what I think we can come to conclusion from this episode.
I think we all need more Reform Judaism. I think we all need less pork and more gefilte fish.
More Doc Browns.
Diet Dr. Brown's. All right. Apparently, so I went my whole life thinking that Diet Dr. Brown's was a commonplace beverage in everyone's household, and it apparently, when I found out when I was a teenager, it is not. If you are not familiar,
if you're not Jewish,
if you are a Gentile, you never had Diet Dr. Brown's, find your nearest Jewish friend and ask him where he gets it. And go try Diet Dr. Like, there's regular Dr. Brown's, but like I've never heard anyone actually ask for that. Everyone gets Diet. I'm not sure why. I just know that that's the way it is. You go by the cream one. Black cherry's good too. Black cherry's righteous, but the cream's like the OG. And you know it's a New York centric drink when it's the symbol of it is literally the Statue of fucking Liberty.
Does it have a fucking dreidel on there too? Is the Statue of Liberty playing?
No, but it does have the kosher and parva symbol on it, so that you know that it's all good. It's all good in the hood. Yeah, Diet Dr. Brown since 1869. You can find it in your local Cat's Delicatessen. The original cream soda, flavor favored for generations. As I'm drinking right now.
We need to go back to Cat's when I'm not fucking pissed off from having to commute from the Bronx.
That was a long day.
And I have money to spend $20 on a sandwich.
It's the best fucking sandwich. Oh god, I've had Cat's ship pastrami to my house before because I love Katz's pastrami so much.
I've still never had it.
It's amazing. I ate a pound of pastrami in one sitting on accident.
So we went to a Yankees game.
It fell into my mouth.
Yeah, it just fell right in. We went to a Yankees game.
Got there way late.
And did we go? We went to Catch's before the game, right?
No, we did because we took the subway all the way up.
So we went from like New York Penn to Central Park to Cat's Deli, which is like south.
We went to Central Park?
Yeah.
I don't think we did.
No,
that was a different day. No, you're thinking of when we went to go see Tao and the Get Down Stay Down.
That's
true.
Center.
Yeah.
Getting high in Central Park. That was fun.
Yeah, we met those dudes who like did martial arts. And Skylar tried to do a backflip and couldn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I remember this day. This was a good day.
Yeah, there was those hot cheerleader chicks.
Yeah, I remember them. Again, if my girlfriend is listening, I love you.
Yeah, we went down to Houston to get some sandwiches.
Yeah.
And
then fucking hiked it up to the Bronx.
Yeah, that fun 50-minute subway ride in June.
And
the subway stations are really hot for no reason.
We did something before that, because I was miserable when we got to Katz's, and I was even more miserable when we got to Yankee Stadium.
Oh, we went to get McDonald's beforehand, because we drove to Newark and then took...
No, we got McDonald's outside of Yankee Stadium.
All right, you're confusing all of the trips to New York.
All right, that was the most recent one. That time we went to Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, when we went for Star Wars Day last
year.
Yeah, looking at my Aaron Judge Jedi bobblehead, which is missing the saber because I'm bad at things.
Mine is still in its original box.
Oh, aren't you fucking lame?
Yeah.
all right, but that's the show. You got anything else?
No.
All right, that's the show. If you want to, if you still want to listen to this, you can find it on all the things. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. If you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. And if you want to find our website with the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes, you can do so at juicingthenumbers.website.com/website. And I'm saying it fast because y'all motherfuckers can listen to this shit.
I'm surprised if you're still here.
And until Monday, my friends, y'all have a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna get McDonald's now.